Hi there, come on in. Michigan's salmon season is wrapping up, and you may have heard reports that the fishing was good this season. Well, what does good mean? Are the old days really back? Who would be better to get a reading on this than Captain Emil Dean, a full-time charter captain since the late 1960s? He's seen the whole history of Great Lakes salmon, and he'll size it up for us in a few minutes. Our report last week that the DNR does not have passbooks or licenses or back tag numbers on their computers caused quite a stir. Charlie Keenan will bring us an update. We have a great recipe and more, so you stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night. Time for Michigan Outdoors.
Fish on!
Fish on! Whoa! Whoa! How about that? How about that?
Yes! Sunrise, the first week in September. The Mary E. is pulling out of her slip at the marina in Manistee. 20 years ago, this was a bustling salmon fishing port. Even 5 years ago, there would be 100 boats on trailers waiting to unload at the public launch site. But today, salmon fishing success is less than 10% of what it was 5 years ago. Kathy Beitler, her daughter Amy, and I had heard the salmon fishery was bouncing back, so we booked a trip with Captain Emil Dean. His first mate, Rod Robison, was down in the cabin getting the rods ready.
What are you doing here?
We're fixing up our lines and everything. We have some poles here that broke and putting rigging on them, putting on our spoons, our bait. So we have different types.
What are you going to be running today?
We'll be running spoons. We have some different ones there. We have the black and raspberry. We have the green and orange on a silver spoon. We have a blue and silver, blue and chrome. And then this one here is a little green and chrome with chrome with a green and yellow stripe.
What's working?
Well, it kind of depends. You know, we have to see what they like first. So it's just trying anything and everything that we can throw at them, and then see what they'll hit on, and then we'll go from there.
Trying different rigs is the name of the game today. A few years ago, the Manistee Pier would have been elbow to elbow with fishermen, casting lures and catching salmon.
We read this business in the paper, how the salmon fishing is coming back. You've been out here all summer long. Is it true?
Not entirely. I can't really see where it's coming back that much, no.
I mean, they said there's an upturn, that fishing was good this summer. Was fishing for you this summer good?
No, but it was better than last year. It wasn't really good.
And how was last year?
Last year was terrible. But we're a long ways from being back where we were 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
Okay, 5 years ago when we came out here and fished with you, no problem getting 6 or 8 fish usually.
No, that was the general rule back in those days. In fact, more than that.
10, 15?
10, 12, 15 fish, yes.
What have you been averaging this summer?
Probably salmon, maybe 2, 3 at the most on the average. Lake trout has been good. We got quite a few limits of lake trout.
But a limit of lake trout. What's a limit of lake trout?
Well, limit's 2. You got 6 people on the board. That's 12 fish.
Oh, that stacks up.
Yeah.
You don't have nearly as many charter boats out here as there were 3 years ago, are there?
No, it's kind of hard to tell really how many we got because they're scattered so much. But there's not near as many as there was, that's for sure.
They've been very competitive on their prices. I mean, people almost really giving away trips just to keep the business going.
A lot of guys are giving them away, yes.
I mean, when we say giving them away, we're talking what?
Okay, I know a boat that runs for $120 a day. That doesn't pay his expenses.
I mean, how do they do it?
Well, he's not going to for long, unless he's got a good job to supplement it.
That's a dandy lake trout.
As a part of the Indian fishing settlement, our DNR agreed to close sport fishing for lake trout in Lake Michigan and Huron on Labor Day. Half the charter boat catch has been lake trout, though, and their best chance for survival is if they're released while they're still in the water.
Okay, I got your teeth. Hang on. I don't want to bring them out of the water. Hold on. No, I got you. Don't worry. Come on.
Emil, what's it worth to you? He's a good man?
Quit wiggling. Get going. Come on, don't do that to me. Come on.
About a third of the lake trout die immediately, and the survival rate of the rest is questionable.
Debris in there.
That fish has got to bend. See, we brought him up from 100 feet.
What do you think
Most of them.
You think he's gonna survive?
I don't think so. He's still floating.
That's a shame, isn't it?
It sure is. I don't know what the answer is, though. I don't think closing the season on them is the answer, because we just waste a lot of good fish.
Yeah. Huh. That's too bad. That's a nice fish.
This is a case where a resource is wasted because of a political settlement to a problem. Emil had put on dodgers and flies to get down to where he was marking fish on his graph, where salmon and lake trout were mixed. If we didn't fish there, we were likely to catch nothing.
Why are you making the switch, Emil?
Well, fish are deep. And I just heard in the radio they're hitting them on the bottom with the tractor.
Well, you already set pretty deep, weren't you?
I was set deep, but I didn't have any tractors on, so. When you get them down around 100 feet like that, you're better off to go to tractors. The reason I don't like to use the tractors unless I have to, you got to troll a lot slower with them than you do with other lures. See, watch this in the water. Now, if I were going to go too fast, that would be spinning. But see, it's just going back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
You got to have it so it's whipping. You want it so it's almost ready to pull out. Watch me pull a rod ahead and you'll see the thing start to spin. See it spin?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you don't want. That's why you got to be right on top of your speed all the time.
So is this a good speed?
This is a good speed, right? This is perfect for dodgers. Now, I might possibly be going too fast or too slow, rather, for my lures. Spoon, you can pull them faster.
Lake trout, we caught 3 today. And of course had to toss them back. The season's over. One of those didn't make it. I mean, floated, we saw it off into the distance. How often does that happen?
That happens quite often when they're deep like they are. You take that fish, bring him up from 100 feet of water, he's got the bends, and a lot of them don't make it.
What could you do to avoid catching them?
There's no way you can avoid catching them. We've taken our lake trout gear off. As you notice, we weren't running cowbells today, we're running salmon gear, and they hit the salmon gear.
But if you didn't fish along the bottom, what would be the difference? I mean, that's where the lake trout virtually always are, aren't they?
Yeah, generally when the water temperature's right, but so are the salmon when the water temperature's right. They run right together when they're deep.
So if you're going to be successful at all in chartering, you've got to fish down near the bottom most of the time.
Well, most of the time, they're again depending on the water temperature, but the bulk of them are near the bottom, yes.
You know, I mean, this is part of the story. For crying out loud.
Oh boy, he is good too.
Boy, that's a dandy. This is too bad.
You don't want to bring him aboard, do you?
No. That is a honker of a laker. Whoa! That is.
Kathy Beitler brings a second lake trout to the boat, a really nice one, at least 10 or 12 pounds. We hoped this fish would make it, and it finally did swim down, but it could have died in the next day or so. We don't know. Another rod popped. I grabbed it, hoping it was a salmon.
Going to move that into there. So what have you been told about the decline in the salmon? I mean, it's down, what would you say, the statistics are it's down 90% from what it was?
I would say it's down a good 90% from what it was in the peak years, yes, at least.
And why? Why are you told that happened?
Well, it's being blamed on the kidney disease, a big thing in it. But that doesn't answer the question, where are the coho or where are the rest of them, you know?
So the whole fishery basically has been down.
I'd say the whole thing is down.
There we go. We're going to back up here and... Hey, that is a big one. Whoa. All right.
Great!
Good job.
Yes. Well, that is a nice salmon I'm holding, but unfortunately it doesn't represent the turnaround of an ailing fishery. Quite a few boats around us brought nothing to the net. While fishing may not have bounced back, there are still salmon to be caught. Well, that's the story of Lake Michigan salmon fishing 1991 from a charter captain who should know, Captain Emil Dean. He's a full-timer. You know, we got a little false reading, I think, on the salmon fishery because we did have some wind currents and weather that pushed the salmon in close, had them bunched up. Remember, there were fewer charter captains out there and fewer boats than a year ago, which kind of gave us a false reading as to the success rate. We're going to be doing an investigation on the salmon fishery, but we're going to have to hold off on that until after hunting season. Speaking of which, we do have a fall turkey season coming up for those lucky hunters who draw permits. We don't have a lot of data in our Williams Gun Sight Hunting Awards on fall turkeys hunting because last year out of 192 turkeys, 184 were taken during the spring hunt. Only 8 gobblers with beards 8 inches or longer were taken in the fall. Fall hunting is different than the spring hunting because the birds of all ages, gobblers, hens, and the young ones are together, making hunting a little more difficult. But let's take a look right now at a spring turkey and kick off our trophy book. Mark Allen from Grand Rapids called in this gobbler in Osceola County at the end of April. That was 10 in the morning. It had a 10 1/8 inch beard. From East Lansing, Jeff Gale had a fall turkey. From Ogemaw County, that was October 10th. He was still hunting, and despite this gobbler's small size, it only weighed 13 pounds, it had a 10 1/2 inch beard. Red horse suckers are usually caught in the spring, but Ted Kilizewski from Belmont, Illinois caught this 22-incher on a crawler from the Grand River in September. At the end of September, Jerry Snyder from Rapid City, South Dakota was fishing the Michigami Reservoir near Marquette. He caught this 44-inch northern pike, 23 pounds, casting a red eye. John Sanders from Standish took this nice black bear last fall with his 55-pound Darton compound. That bear weighed 328 pounds, was taken in Alcona County on September 23rd. Here's a nice buck taken the first week of bow season last year. Doug Hauser from Cassopolis was hunting Cass County, 5:30 in the evening, probably after work. He got this 12-point buck. And since we've had so many bow hunters in this trophy book, let's go back to turkeys. Gotta be the toughest critter to bag with a bow. Charles Curtis from Lapeer got a huge gobbler near Oscoda, and Charlie obviously knows what he's doing.
It's the third turkey with bow that I've gotten and one with a shotgun. And I've been hunting since it first opened.
I mean, this beard, you must have been ecstatic when you got a 13.5-inch beard on this baby. That must have drug on the ground when it came out.
It did. I was hunting for bear also. I was up hunting with bow and arrow for bear and turkey, and didn't see no bear, but there was about a 10.5-inch beard turkey come in, and shortly this one came in, and I made a real long shot. I couldn't get him in. They're very hard to decoy in the fall, and I called them, and I did get him come in about 30 yards. I took a long shot for the wing, for the lung. He heard the arrow, he jerked back, and the arrow caught him right to the neck, and he dropped right there.
I'll be darned. Well, this one made the National Record Book of the National Wild Turkey Federation.
With a 13.5-inch beard, it was the second largest gobbler overall in our trophy book for 1990. It was the largest with a bow. So let's make Charlie Curtis our Outdoors Club Bow Hunter of the Week. Every now and then we get a great trophy photo that really doesn't make our trophy book, but take a look at this one. Steve Sharp and Judy Wade sent me a shot of a nice salmon and brown trout they caught. Judy hooked these fish, both of them, and turned the rod over to Steve because she was tired. After a difficult battle, they netted the salmon and found that the brown trout was also hooked on the blue and silver Cleo. That's right, 2 fish on the same lure. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, giving Judy and Steve a real fish story to tell. Speaking of computerized names and addresses, last week we broke the story that since 1989, the DNR has not been putting names and addresses of hunting and fishing passbook holders into the computer. Now, this has some serious ramifications, which our SOS Bureau Director Charlie Keenan is concerned about.
There are several things that we're concerned about with this. Number one is they can't check the names and addresses. If they have a back tag number for a violation, the CO is just left hanging. They can't go back to headquarters and come up with the names and addresses they need to process the violation. Accurate statistics is a second one. Being able to compile accurate statistics and making decisions off of those statistics is what game management's all about, and they can't do that now. The third thing would be buying extra tags. It's just like the $2 limit. It's up to the individual sportsman to be honest about this thing, because they can't check how many tags you buy from the license dealer. You could go out and buy an extra deer tag, and there's no way to cross-check it or come back to it.
The real crime is this passbook system was designed to be computerized, it's easy, and it's logical. With every passbook, there's a page of adhesive barcodes that replace the need for the license dealer to write down a person's name and address each time he buys a license. The dealer trades one of these barcodes for the license, and the barcodes can quickly be read by a computer and matched to the original passbook data. But we were told that this system hasn't been in operation since 1989. And the distressing thing is that we were barred from the DNR from going down and asking questions. We were told to put our questions in writing, which we did 16 days ago.
Yeah, 16 days, over 2 weeks. All we wanted to do was get in and sort out the facts. We've been stymied in that. Not only can we not go down there, they're not sending us the information, which leads me to believe that we're right on target. Not only are we on target, there's probably something there they're trying to hide. How about the new license system? They're trying to put a new license system in place of the old one, and that revamping is going to cost the hunters and fishermen more money. And with the dissatisfaction in the DNR, I don't think it's going to wash.
Politics seems to be rampant in the DNR nowadays. Next week, we're going to have a story on how the DNR calculates deer numbers in Michigan. If you're a deer hunter, this is going to be a real eye-opener.
We have another unique recipe from Bill Westwell. And all of his recipes, he doesn't copy them from anybody else. They're all very original.
They don't look normal. They don't taste normal. I mean, they're great.
Different ingredients. And this one calls for smoked salmon. And we had to buy it because we didn't have any. And this is very, very thinly sliced. And then we're going to take some green onion tops and just blanch them. You want to work with them. They have to be pliable. Because you're going to make a crepe, and that's going to actually tie the whole thing together. And then you want to slice those in two, of course, so you can tie them. And this recipe is time-consuming, but it's very, very good.
Oh, it looks like Rocky would like this.
Yes, it's going to make a crepe out of just eggs and water, and they have to be very well blended.
Oh, I see. So
Yep.
like scrambled eggs.
Yep, exactly,
Okay.
except it's just a real thin layer, and then you want to wait until the top starts to bubble, and then you flip it out, and hopefully it'll come out all whole. And then just put a piece of the smoked salmon in it and tie the bag up with the green onion top.
Oh, that's all that onion is for?
Yep,
I mean,
that's-
you could use a piece of string if you didn't want to eat
Sure,
it.
you could, or you could use a toothpick, or just roll it over even.
And
then
that
make a
sauce.
sauce, right? And it's basically a white sauce with a little bit of wine in it and cayenne pepper.
To make a long story short, you hated it. We loved it.
I loved the sauce.
This was not love at first bite, okay? The first bite I was rather dubious about it, but it tastes like there's a little bacon in it. It certainly is a breakfasty sort of food. And it's one of those rare recipes that isn't really a takeoff on some other recipe. This one is unique. It's new and it's different. It's very, very tasty.
I think the sauce really makes it on this one. I mean, smoked salmon really comes through. Like you say, it almost tastes like bacon. But the sauce, I think, really makes it. I know.
When did
you love it.
When did you start this PR routine? You've been saying for the past 5 minutes how you hate this.
I didn't say
you
I
can't
hated it.
stand it.
I know. I
You
said
said it
it's
was
not
awful.
my favorite.
Boy,
it really needs a lot of sauce.
She's back down on it. Yeah.
No, I said it needs sauce.
I disagree. I have had, when I was in Iceland, did that trip to Iceland, we ate salmon and char like this.
It's delicious.
Oh, it was delicious. I love the sauce. I stuck my finger in the sauce before we, just to taste it. I think it's outstanding. And the capers I dearly love.
That's one of your favorites.
I think this recipe, I want, don't
You
even
can-
don't
you
even
can
eat
have
anymore.
mine, okay?
I'm going to take it. In fact, I'm going to confiscate it because you don't deserve to have it.
What about me? What about me? I need
Burner's
another
empty.
serving too.
Okay, you can have a little bit of this, Bob. As long as you love it.
All right, I will.
Oh, this
I
is
will.
great.
Thank you, guys.
Hang on if you want that recipe. It's in our Outdoor Digest magazine. The address is coming up in just a few minutes, right at the end of the show. Now for our guide report, let's start off on the eastern side of the state in the Upper Peninsula. A couple walleyes, smallmouth bass limits, catfish, rock bass in Muskogee Bay, so that fishery is picking up. They report the Devil's River salmon, 1 to 2 salmon in the morning, but that's daylight or just before daylight. Look at this, 14-inch perch in Hubbard Lake. Wow. Getting a couple bass, couple walleye in Houghton Lake, according to Ron Reed. They're catching salmon 3 to 4 per trip. 20-pounders off Ascona, and I imagine Tawas as well. A salmon from shore, Larry Lixie says they're getting 1 or so. The anglers are in the St. Clair River. Down here in the Detroit River, a couple walleye, perch 8 to 10 inches. But look at these perch over here in South Haven. 7 to 15 inches limits, according to the Captain Nichols. Getting steelhead off Pentwater. Emil Dean is catching a couple coho per trip, like you saw. They're getting walleye, perch, northern pike, and Bay-to-Knock, and up here in the western UP, a couple salmon off Black River Harbor, 15 to 25 pounders, walleye, Lake Ogibic, and 30 to 35% color change. Get outdoors if you can this weekend. It's a great place to be. See you next week.
Coho usually come up early like that?
Next week on Michigan Outdoors, we'll go into detail on what we found out about the DNR's deer herd estimates, how they get these numbers, why they don't always seem to match what hunters see in the woods, and why they don't necessarily match what you hear from different DNR employees who work the same area. If you've wondered why the numbers seem high, I think you'll figure it out next week. We'll also have a story on how to build a deer rifle. All you need is a firearm factory. I'll show you how next week, right here on Public TV. All right. Great!